Hello, everybody. Alex from Tackle Block here, and I just wanted to give you guys a little heads up before the start of this episode, just how excited I am about this one. This week's episode is with the president of Cedar Springs Landscape Group, Adrian Bartels. He tells us an awesome story. Not an awesome story. Cut that. Start over. Starting now. Hey everybody, Alex from Tackle Block here, and I just want to share with you before we get into the episode just how excited I am about sharing this week's discussion with you. It's with Adrian Bartels, the president of Cedar Springs Landscape Group. They are one of the largest landscape construction firms in North America, an absolute leader in so many different ways, which you'll discover throughout this conversation. But what's particularly unique about this conversation is Adrian started cutting lawns for the company in 1995 at 15 years old. Today, he's the president. He's grown a magnificent company, and you're going to hear a lot about the mindset that you need to build and lead and continuously grow a company like theirs, how they've positioned themselves in the market from a branding and marketing perspective, what they do to attract new talent, but most importantly, how they retain their people through the best ways possible, really by continuously giving them opportunities to grow and develop as people and as professionals. This is a very motivational, very inspirational episode. I hope you all get as much out of it as I did, because I think it's a great one. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. I'm your host, Alex from Tackle Block, and today we're joined by Adrian Bartels from Cedar Springs Landscape Group. I am super excited to have Adrian on the show. For a long time now, I have regarded Cedar Springs as being one of the top landscaping companies in North America. They do so many things at an elite level, and Adrian has been there for an extremely long time, and now he is at the helm of this ship, and we're going to be talking to him about the business, about some of the things that they do that make them so exceptional, and hopefully we can pull out some little nuggets of wisdom to share with our audience here today. Adrian, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks, Alex. I'm honored to be here.
Great. So, Adrian, I alluded to this 2 seconds ago. You've been there for a very long time. From what I remember, you started at Cedar Springs when you were in high school.
Yep, it was my first job. Well, it's not my first job. It was my second job. I think I was 15 when I took a summer job. My brother was working in the company. The company was small, maybe only about I don't even think there was 10 employees, but there might have been. At that time, Jack Whiskey was the owner of the company. He started the company in the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there. It went through a couple of name changes, and I think early 91, something like that, they Cedar Springs Landscaping was the name. And so, yeah, I think in 1995 might have been the first year I worked in the summer.
And what were you doing then?
So then I was on a maintenance crew, cutting lawns, that type of thing. I think there was 2 maintenance crews at that time, and I did that for a couple of years, anyways. And I think by '98, I was running a maintenance crew, and around that time, I think I was finished high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at this point. I wasn't sure that landscaping was the future, but I certainly enjoyed it. And all my friends were going to college after high school, and I couldn't reckon with the idea of going to school when I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just thought that was a waste of time, and so I figured I'll just keep working until I decide what I want to do, and when I know what I want to do, then I'll find whatever schooling is appropriate, and I'll go then. Jack was very entrepreneurial and loved to give opportunities to anybody who had any sort of ambition, and so I was, like I said, running a crew, and then before long I was running the maintenance department, which by then maybe a couple of years later was 4 or 5 maintenance crews. And Jack was aggressive. He wanted to grow, and he loved growth. And so I still enjoyed what I was doing, and it kind of evolved. I stopped looking for other options, and I looked to see what could happen inside this company. So that's the genesis of it all.
And what is your role today?
Yeah, so, well, I guess maybe I'll sort of carry on with where I left off. So around that time, the city of Hamilton was cracking down on landscape companies operating out of residential rural properties. And so they came to Jack's property and said, you can't work out of here anymore. And so we bought a local garden center and planned to operate out of there. But right around that time also, Hamilton amalgamated. So Ancaster, Dundas, all the surrounding municipalities amalgamated into the Hamilton-Wentworth area. And they just seemed to forget about what they were trying to do with respect to getting these rural landscape companies compliant. And so we just kept on operating out of there. But then we had this garden center. What are we going to do with this? So we decided to start operating a garden center. And what happened was Jack spent almost all of his time at the garden center, and it left a big void in the company. And so the office manager at that time would call me and say, hey, Jack's missed an appointment for a landscape client here. Can you take it? And so I did. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I figured it out. I would meet them, find out what they wanted, take some measurements, go back, figure out a price. And that's how I got into landscape sales. And it started with a walkway and a retaining wall and a whatever. And then I downloaded a design app, or not a design app, but a design program, started to kind of play around with landscape design. And yeah, that kind of grew, and I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the sales. So fast forward today, I still do sales. I love sales. I love the thrill of the sale, but I also love meeting new people, coming up with creative ideas for their property. We have a great design team. I don't want to take any credit away from that team because they're really the design experts. They're the creative ones, but I do enjoy that whole process. And so so the company continued to grow. In 2008, the economy dipped, and at that time we got into commercial landscaping, and Jack started to run commercial landscaping, and I sort of took over the residential side, and we kept growing. By 2014, the company was almost 50-50 commercial and residential. And about this time, Jack and I decided to split the company. So I ran with Cedar Springs Landscape Group. Jack ran with CSL Group, an acronym which was designed to not water down the brand. So, and along the way, we were evolving the brand too. We used Compass Creative a long time ago to start branding us, and we've rebranded a number of times. We've always put a big emphasis on branding. But anyway, fast forward today, I'm still in sales. I think I'll continue to do this until I die, if they'll allow me to.
They'll let you.
But I had to hire a general manager, and he does more of the managing type of stuff. So it allows me to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the company.
So you mentioned the brand, so why don't we take a little stroll and visit that point, because that is one of the things that I feel is extremely strong with your company. You mentioned working with Compass Creative, who I've had the opportunity to work with as well. They're great people as well, and it's a great company. But what, I guess for you, what is the Cedar Springs brand, and how did it come to be? Was it something that's very intentional, or was it something that kind of just evolved and then you end up meeting with some experts who were able to make it something more solid, more tangible?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think one of the things the marketing company, Compass, alerted us to early on is that marketing has to be authentic. And they believe very strongly in that. And a long time ago, they asked us who we were, like really who we were, like what do we, how do we feel about customer service? What are we doing this for? Why are we doing this? And then they weren't content with our answers. They went and interviewed as many customers of ours as they could, as well as all of our employees, to see if we were authentic. You could say that you really care about your employee. You might make that claim, or you might make the claim that you really, really care about your customer. But often those things could be marketing, done for marketing purposes. Who doesn't want their customer to think that
You really care about
that's all they care about?
Yeah.
So they did that, and they actually found that in fact it was true. Our customers thought that we cared, and our employees thought that we cared about them, and we really did want to, because we believe very strongly two things. We wanted to be around for the long term, and that meant when something goes wrong on a job, perhaps the year later or 3 years later, or even after warranty perhaps has expired, we want to be well known for taking care and looking after the customer, because that's the only way we're going to be able to build a brand that lasts a long time. We didn't want to be a company here today, gone tomorrow. A lot of companies are like that. And so it's expensive to take care of customers properly. It's not easy. When a customer calls about a little issue, human nature is to try to make excuses about why it happened and somehow try to turn the blame onto the customer. We tried to avoid that as much as we could. And so I think Compass Creative at a certain point was content with the fact that we were truly trying to be who we thought we needed to be. And so they helped us market a brand that was perhaps always slightly ahead of where we currently were. In other words, you take as many nice photos as you can, and I mean that's where you are. Those are the projects that you're working on. But we always wanted to do bigger jobs and nicer jobs, but you need that first one to do the next one. And so, so they tried to design a marketing campaign that showed us to be luxurious, I guess. And then the rest of it, we just had to make sure we held up our end of the bargain. We had to take care of the clients. We couldn't have negative reviews, because you spend a lot of money on marketing, but you can undo a lot by missing the boat on just taking care of the customer. That gets out pretty quick.
I was actually on Google looking at reviews right before we got on here. The number of 5-star reviews that you have, like right now I'm looking at it's 4.4 stars out of 5. There's a couple ones. I mean, one of them that I read wasn't even you. They're saying some guy came out and he was very arrogant, and they gave the person's name, and you don't employ anyone by that name. So there's always those trolls that try to take you down on those reviews as well. But the number of 5-star reviews and positive feedback, and just from what I've seen, I was the sales rep for Tackle Block in the Golden Horseshoe. I was your rep for a period of time, and the number of homeowners that I met who were just over the moon with the quality of the craftsmanship and the service that you provide, and the peace of mind that everyone seemed to have. Like they knew that working together with you was going to be the best investment they could make if they were investing in their backyard. And the luxury part is certainly part of it. But when you look at everything on your website, there's definitely something that speaks to the care and attention to detail that's put into every part of the work that you do. You see it even on the website. It's incredibly well thought out. Every detail is there. There's a little backstory for every person. You see all the faces of all the people. So all the things that make people kind of shy away from making these very sizable investments, you're addressing them head on, and you're really inspiring that confidence in the customer side. So anybody who's listening to this, cedarsprings.net is the website. I highly recommend checking it out as at least at minimum as a benchmarking for like what a good landscape company website looks like and should contain, because I think there's a lot of great stuff on there. I want to come back to a point that you made about upholding that reputation. You said you want to be around for the long term. You also said it's expensive to take care of clients. It's one thing to say that it's expensive to take care of clients and you have a commitment to taking care of the clients and making sure that they're happy with whatever resolution that comes forward. But if that has such an elevated cost to your business, how do you make sure that you are comfortable providing those services? Because at the size of company that you've grown to, if I'm not mistaken, you have at least 5 or 6 construction crews running around at any given moment. Is that right?
We have close to 20.
20 construction crews now.
Yeah.
So you've grown a bit since the last time I met in your office. So with 20 construction crews, a lot can go wrong with your projects, by ignorance or just by sheer volume. What do you do that puts you in a position where you feel very comfortable on the financial side of things, of saying, like, whatever's wrong with the project, that's a year later, it's 3 years later, it's 5 years later, it doesn't matter, we're going to come back and we're going to make it right?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think a lot of the investment is on the preventative side, training. I think about 4 years ago, we started implementing this idea of project managers. So every job site has a foreman, every crew has a foreman, lead hand, and then some number of laborers. But in addition to that, we have project managers that manage multiple sites. And we did this for a couple of reasons. Number one, trying to find people in our industry. I'm sure you're going to touch on that at some point, but we felt like we needed to give opportunity for the senior foreman. And so we looked around and said, what could a foreman do when their knees start, giving out, and their back starts giving out, and it's a young man's game, landscaping. It's not for, it's hard work. So we wanted to design a program that could give somebody a lifelong career. And so we thought about it, and not everybody wants to be a salesperson. Not everybody wants to be an estimator. So some people want to stay on the job site. And so we thought, as people get older, let's say into their 50s, maybe 40s, they've got a lot of head knowledge. They've done hundreds, thousands maybe of projects. How can we leverage that and get value out of that and be able to give them an easier lifestyle? And so that allowed us to sort of fast track our foreman. So a foreman could start younger now because there's sort of this guy helping, but it also helped us with our standards. We have a commitment to continuous improvement here. And so every off season, we're involved in critically evaluating our standards, how we build something, looking at what might have gone wrong in the past year. Winters are downtime, there's lots of time to reflect and do training and all this type of thing. And so we make a commitment every winter to not waste time. But yeah, it's a bit of a downtime. Guys need a little bit of respite after a hard year. But in the new year, it's back to work, and it's a lot of introspective research. And so with all the ideas that come around, and there's you've seen the group of people we have. There's a lot of intelligent and wise, experienced people in our company, and so we get together in a boardroom and for a couple of days hash out what could be done better, what could prevent this problem from happening, and so a lot of it is preventative, but a lot of it also is oversight and supervision, and so we try to do all of those things. So the first thing is minimizing the amount of issues, and once you've done that, two things. Number one, we're let's say a water feature blows up or whatever, worst case scenario, you name it.
Features, there's always something.
Water features are, so we live in a difficult climate in Canada, and so there's lots of opportunity for failure there. But we try to take the approach that a couple things. Number one, the client is the most important, and our brand also has to be protected. So that's number one. Number two, okay, there was a failure here. Let's find out exactly why it happened so that this never happens again. And so we try to take a very positive approach to a negative situation every time. And, like year after year after year, you start to eventually, you've seen a lot of problems and you've come up with a lot of solutions. And so one of the things that it does do is it does tend to increase our costs because, pavers can over time, they can shift and move. You know that you're in the paver industry. So I don't know how many years ago, 5 years ago now, maybe, we decided that we won't install any paver without putting concrete below it, ultra base below it. And that's a solution. That's for our company, it was a radical solution to a problem that, clients are concerned about the migration of pavers, and they're concerned about sand coming out of the joints and possible weeds. Like, that's a common problem. And we thought if we could lick that for good, then which I think concrete or ultra base solves. So that's just one example, but it does add to your cost of install.
For sure. I just want to do a little aside for ultra base because that's kind of an Ontario thing, but that's basically a cement stabilized aggregate, right? It's a crusher run or crushed stone 3/4 minus with cement blended in, and once it's installed and compacted, it's cement stabilized, so it's like a concrete slab, not a full, the cement percentage isn't as much as if you were pouring concrete, but it is a much more rigid and stabilized base option. So going that way,
and it's permeable.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So going that way, like you said, it has a significant increased cost. But again, if you're positioning yourself as that premium brand, as that luxury brand, and peace of mind is a big part of the promise, then you're attracting the type of clients that understand the value that represents. And if you're making the promise that, listen, we're going to build this once and it will be built right, and we are so confident that if there is anything, we will come back and we will absolutely make it right. Those are the types of things that allow people to take the next step forward with you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. 100%.
If we come back to the people real quick, I'm on the about page of your website, and I'm looking at all the people, and honestly, I'm impressed with how many people that I recognize from 10 years ago when I was coming into your office that are still there. And I see that evolution that you're saying. Like John Sauvé was on the showcase project that we worked on, and he had just started, and now he's a landscape foreman. Robbie Hicks, he's still there. Mike, where I saw him up at the top, Mike is there as the operations manager now. It's awesome to see that progression of people and how there's always that opportunity to stick around and to grow and to adapt to your skill set as well and the strengths that you possess. Is that something that, obviously it's part of the culture, it's part of the company, but is that something that, kind of thinking back to the start of your story, that basically is part of the company's DNA from the beginning, saying how Jack was very entrepreneurial and very aggressive and always very growth oriented, so people who had that drive, they would be given those opportunities?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Jack taught me a lot about giving people opportunity, and I think the company has always stayed aggressive. We want to grow, and what holds us back from growth is not getting clients, it's getting people. And so we decided a long time that, we're in the same difficult position every other contractor is. We're looking for people. But one thing we're not going to do is lose our people. And we have a pretty good, we have a very good retention plan program. I would say better than most, and that's one of the big strengths of our company. And in part because we try to chart a career path for people. So, and it's not for everybody. I mean, Mike Bartels is our operations manager. He basically runs the entire operation. That opportunity was available to anybody who wanted it, really, and it was the guy who took it who gets it, you know. So there's a little bit of healthy competition there. Obviously, there's also a need. The company needs somebody to run, to captain the ship, so to speak. I can't do everything, and so. But now project managers are another great opportunity for foremen, and lead hands are chomping at the bit. When could they become a foreman? And laborers want to become lead hands because there's pay increases there, and so there's just sort of this cycle of opportunity that continues. And there's people that sometimes are disappointed. They think that they've got the skill to be either this or that, and you have to sit them down and you have to try to explain to them what their skills are. Here's your skills. Here's your deficiencies. This is an area where we think if you want that position, you need to improve here. So we have a pretty good HR program that speaks to our guys regularly and tries to assess them and coach them and where we think that they would be best suited in the long term.
And I think that the long term is the big key there. Like you're taking that long term vision with every person, so that if you're looking at it from the long term and you can encourage them to look at it from the long term, then that also must help with the retention, because people are thinking long term. They're not thinking, I don't know what I'll do next summer. We'll figure it out then. Like they know they're coming back and they know that they're on a path. How did you develop that career path? Is that something that you developed in-house, or did you work with some consultants or an agency or?
Yeah, no, I think we evolved that internally here. It starts pretty rudimentary. But then as you really think about it and you start, it's kind of like our pricing thing online. It's one of the things that people want, and we've always taken the approach, let's just be upfront and bold and
say what it is.
Say what it is. The business, like, there's no secrets out there. Like, if people want to copy, they're going to copy. But a career path, everybody knows the transition from a laborer to a lead hand to a foreman and whatever other positions might come after that. So there's really you're not reinventing the wheel there. But so we just lay it out there, and so far it seems to work.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think transparency is something that is increasingly valued in the workplace, and it's kind of funny to me that we're having this type of conversation about career paths and about long-term potential for people, and even the last thing I just said, transparency, when you think about where this industry has been and how so many people feel like, well, this is a business for people who can't stand the corporate life, who don't want that type of business or employment or opportunity for themselves or for others. Like they just want to work outside and get things done. But at the end of the day, you're still in the same situation as any other company. You're trying to attract and retain and develop talented individuals, because at the end of the day, that's what makes the business work. And you've taken a lot of things that any business in any industry does very well, and you've adapted those same principles to your business. The no secrets thing is something that I find particularly interesting, because especially bigger companies in our industry tend to really be very secretive about the things that they're doing. I don't know if it's out of fear of being copied, like you said. I believe a lot like you. Like if they're going to copy, they're going to copy. Like this, that I hide it or I don't, you can still see what I'm doing. What is your mindset on that makes you so confident of, like, we're just going to do what we got to do, and the rest of the world will do what it wants to do?
Well, I think that sort of came from a pretty robust marketing program that we implemented, and we started getting and I guess coupled with the fact that we do high quality work, our brand was highly sought after. We had a lot of phone calls, and so when we went to the marketing department, we said, "Here's the deal. Like, you're doing a great job, but we don't have the crews to handle the amount of volume of people calling us. How do we deal with this problem? And they're and then they kind of probed a little bit more, like what are the sort of the challenges of the company. Well, one of them is everybody thinks they want us, but not everybody
Can have you.
really knows what we cost, what it costs to retain our services, and it's quite a process to get to the point where you can give somebody a quote. You got to do the whole design. You got to design the whole thing, and then you got to detail out the materials and all that kind of thing. So we thought there's got to be a way to kind of, like, you could go online now and buy a car. Like, everybody knows how much a car is, right? Like, most people know how much a car is. Most people know how much a hot tub is. People know how much a pool is, generally speaking. There's a couple of things that people just have no idea about. Landscaping is one of them. I think home renovation is another one. You know how much a house costs, because you can go on the real estate market and buy a house, but to actually build or renovate,
it doesn't. There's not a process. It's just
so that we thought,
item.
well, there's got to be a way. Yeah. So landscaping, it can be broken down much like a car. You could break down a car and you could say, well, here's the base, and here you add on the tires and the leather seats and the upgraded paint and all kinds of things like that. And so we thought there's got to be a way to do that in landscaping. At least get people, like, they don't have to know that it's 350,000. They have to know that what they're talking about is between 300,000 and 400,000. Because too many times I'd get somebody that would be, we've saved up for 10 years and we're ready to build our masterpiece and we want to do it all. And then you do the whole design, you come to them and they have a budget of 100,000 and they just think that this is an enormous sum of money. And then we come back with a quote of 350,000 and we've just absolutely dashed their dreams and hopes. And so, I guess in a certain way, we would just rather dash them a lot earlier in the process. So, or at least educate them. Our clients need to be educated, and there's nobody doing it. And so we thought, well, we'll do this for ourselves, but we'll do the industry a favor too. And if landscapers, and I'm sure there's landscapers out there that love the fact that the numbers are out there, and if they can come in a wee little bit lower, good for them. We were confident enough in our brand. We were not worried about that. We get enough phone calls. There's such a demand for our services that we thought, look, we'll do this for us. We'll do it for the industry, and hopefully, eventually, others follow suit. And well, we've had literally companies ripping off our website, copying us in the States. We've had a few of them. Actually, I think in Canada too. But anyway, it is starting to take off. I've seen other websites like this.
There's a lot of it now,
but I do think that it's done it.
There is a lot of it now where you do see more and more companies that are putting
coming.
that kind of that pricing estimate out there. But even then, like, and this is kind of the thought that I have, and not to cut you off, but this is kind of the thought that I have about copying. Like, you did this first. I don't know if it was first in the whole industry, but it was definitely first to my knowledge. And you had the pricing out there. This is over a decade ago. And the pricing model and the way that you calculate it on the website has evolved over time. So as people are copying you, they're copying the last thing you did, but you're constantly moving forward. And you mentioned this, like, that you have this commitment to continuous improvement. So it's great that you're copying what I'm doing, but you're copying the old stuff. The new stuff is coming, and it's going to be better. And that's what I see here. Like, this calculator that you have is so elaborate. There's so much stuff. You have everything you could think of, and it's there. And you have a range with a little description for each one. I add it to the landscape, and then boom, like, this is what we're talking about. It should cost between this and this. It's so smart. But I think, like, what you're saying about the marketing side is critical for people to understand. Like, someone might look at your website and say, your designs start at 2.5K, $2,500, and go up to 6,000, and that's like the simple designs. You have designs that go up to $18,000 and you haven't put a shovel in the ground yet. Some people will have that reaction, but you've managed to create such demand that you can justify these prices. And it's not because you're being greedy with your pricing. It's because of all the other stuff that goes into it. You have a team that sticks around. As people climb that career ladder, well, you need to pay them more. And people who have been there for 20 years will earn more than someone who's been there for 20 minutes. So all these things keep bringing the price up. And as long as you can create significant demand where the prices are not a problem, people are happy to pay it. It's fine that someone might think it's too expensive. For someone else, they think it's great value. And that's what's great about a free market. And that's what's great about building a great reputation for your company.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The estimator or the pricing calculator has evolved as we get better at it, as we can populate it more. And I think our projects are evolving as well. And so, a project that might used to have 20 different elements 5-10 years ago now includes so many more options and elements. Like our projects are getting bigger and bigger and more elaborate, and so there's just so many more things to include, and that's actually not easy for our clients to fill this calculator out. And so we often will say, look, okay, you've filled it out and you've come to this number, but what about this? You can't do without this one and this one and this one and this one. And so there's a little bit of an education, but it's a really good start. It's a good start to a conversation with a client. So we'll get leads with clients that will fill in a calculator that'll say, this is what I want, and I've populated it here, and it adds up to this much money, and I'm comfortable in this range or whatever. And it's just a really good way to thin out the overall, the customer that just says, hey, I want to get a little front walkway done. Well, we could do that, but it's probably not in our wheelhouse. We're
yeah. On the marketing side, what? And maybe you can answer this, and maybe you can't. But I'm curious, what do you believe has the biggest impact on your marketing? Is there a particular marketing activity that you do, or area that you invest in that has the biggest impact, or is it just it's the momentum of the brand over decades? What is it?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, because we continue to struggle with that very question internally, and I don't know that we'll ever be settled on it. But I think what I would say about marketing is, if you're not the most dedicated to your online reviews or your customer service, it doesn't matter where you market or what you market, you're gonna be in trouble. And so being authentic and being having attention to detail and actually caring about the customer, that's marketing. And then everything after that is, I don't know, I guess it's a bit of a crapshoot, whether it's going in magazines. We've never done radio, but I'm not opposed to it. We've never done TV. We've done magazines. We've done online, like online advertising, Google AdWords, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I like high-end magazines because I like aligning our brand with other high-end brands. I think there's there's an alignment there that might be subtle, but when you're in a magazine next to a Rolex watch and a high-end car company or whatever, there's a brand association that kind of goes together. So I kind of like that for that reason. We've never done television or radio, like I said. I don't know why. I think the main thing for us is we want to leverage photography. We take a lot of photography because obviously photography in our industry is fantastic. Like not every industry can use photography as a marketing scheme. Like insurance companies, obviously, what are you going to take a photo of? But in our industry, it's highly visual. So, so it's important for the medium that we use to be able to leverage our photography. So we take a lot of photos. We find opportunities to share them online. I think that's great. Like I said, we do the magazines. But we debate it often internally. Should we push more this way? Should we go that way? Are magazines still the way to go? Are people still reading them? I don't know. And where will people be 10 years from now? I'm not sure. I think it's something that we'd be always evaluating.
I think what I appreciate with what you just said with regards to the magazines is the brand association. It's you're not just picking magazines because they have the highest distribution or highest number of subscribers or whatever. It's is this speaking to the right type of person? Is this saying the message that we are a premium brand, we are a premium company, we are the Rolex of landscaping, we are the Mercedes-Benz of landscaping, we are Cedar Springs? And I think that's really important.
Yeah, and it almost can almost sound arrogant. We don't mean it that way. I think what we really mean is we don't want, like McDonald's, for example, has a very, very good brand. They're very, very good at branding, but they're marketing to absolutely everybody, and they want just sheer volumes, lots of volumes. We can't handle volumes, so we want quality. Like we want a small number of clients. I mean, as large as our company is, we can only handle like 50 to 100. Right. So you're right. So we're going to high income earners. We're picking postal codes and certain demographics because those are the clients we're going after. So we're pretty selective in where we market.
I have one last question on marketing, and then I want to get into the labor discussion, because you alluded that you want to talk about it a little bit, and I think everyone wants to talk about it, and you seem to be addressing it well. But photography, and maybe it's more just of a note, but you have a very distinct photography style. The images on your website, the images on your social media, all the images that you see, they all have the same kind of vibe. They all have the same kind of lighting. There's a lot of really popping of the fire and the landscape lighting that really gives it a sense of warmth. It seems to be right as the sun's going down, or maybe right as the sun's coming up. But there's a very specific time of day and very specific lighting situation, very specific orientation for your photography. Is that something that you have like a team of photographers, or you have a photography company that you subcontract? Was that something that came about just like, oh wow, we really like these ones? Or was that something that, again, through the marketing company, like, well, the brand is this, we're trying to paint this picture of luxury, so we need to take this approach? Like, what kind of went into that?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. When we last rebranded, we've done a couple of small rebrands since, but still today our brand says backyard escapes, backyard getaways, home resorts. It's all about this idea of giving up the cottage and escaping in your backyard. And actually in the past 2 years when COVID hit, that message really rang true for people, and businesses obviously boomed in the industry, as you know. The backyard getaway, escape, resort. So when our marketing team sort of promoted that idea many, many years ago, actually, I think this thing's probably 10 years old or 12 years old. They encouraged us to go and get professional photography. So we spent money on photography a long time ago, I think probably before most people did, and we've never stopped, and we've always included a healthy photography budget every single year in our marketing. And so we won't let any photos on our website or in any of our social media of finished projects. Well, I guess there are some sort of social media might have some partial projects or whatever, but yeah, no, we just use professionals, and they, well, we also want the night shots because that gives that real resort look, right, with the lighting and the water and the fire and all that. So yeah, no, I got to give credit to our photography and our marketing companies for that. You know, I mean, it's a decision to include it in your budget. It's not cheap. And actually, photography is now evolving into a lot of video. And so I think you're going to see a lot of video coming over the coming years. Yep. Drones is another big one. That's you know, we've always been quick to embrace new technology. We want to be cutting edge, and sometimes it's expensive being on the cutting edge. You know, the first plasma TV cost $12,000, and now you can buy them for $1,000. But I think if you want to be a leader, you have to keep pushing the envelope.
I like that a lot. Yeah, innovation has a cost, but it has a big payoff too when it's done right. And I mean, that's kind of the history of your company from a marketing perspective. Did you want to add to that? No, you're good. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I've already said it, but marketing is expensive, right? So, you know, as a business owner, you could take a look at your company, and you could look at how to maximize your profit. And every company wants to do that to a certain degree. But there's always this idea of leveraging the present for the future. And we've always decided to include money in the budget for marketing, because marketing is going to get us the client 3 years from now. Photography is going to do that. Marketing is going to do that. And like I said, it's expensive. Business is expensive, you know. So you could take an attitude to maximize today, but I think you're going to find that over the course of the next 5 years, your company's going to have difficulty growing. So investing in your employees, investing in marketing is all investing in the future. And so that's the goal. We want to be around for 100 years, not 10.
It's that long-term vision. Okay, let's pivot to the labor situation in the plaguing multiple industries, but our industry specifically. I even saw the most recent Instagram post on your account is you're hiring. Surprise, springtime, landscape company hiring. What's your stance on everything? What are you doing, and what's your advice?
Yeah, so I was mentioning this earlier that I spoke on a Landscape Ontario panel 3, 4, 5 years ago. I don't remember, and they asked the same question. You know, what's your strategy? We don't have any strategies better than the next guy. I think our strategy is not in. We don't have great strategies in getting people. We have good strategies in keeping people, and I think that is where people have to put their money. We use all the same resources, and you know, leveraging social media, going on Indeed, using, you know, whatever, giving incentives to our guys to bring employees in. All the things, you know. We're not coming up with any idea that isn't already happening in the industry. Keeping people, promoting careers, training them, not trying to keep people at a certain, you know, that can be tempting for employees. Hire somebody at $25 and try to keep them there as long as possible, right? Because that's how you make money. But if you're actually interested in that guy's or girl's progression and career, then you want to get them to $30 an hour and then to $35, because that means they're making that much more money for you. So, you know, it's I think a lot of people can get caught up in minimizing how much they pay people and then risking losing them. And I think you got to change that, and you got to look at an employee and you got to say, hey, here's where you are today. This is where I want to get you, and this is the benefit for you. And be frank with them. This is the benefit for me. This is how we're going to work together. We're a partnership here. As the company does well, you're going to do well. So we do that. We have obviously good benefits program. We have profit sharing. We do all those kinds of things. That any company, any large company, I think is doing.
It's the mindset that you just said, though. It's if that person is earning more for themselves, they're earning more for you. How does that work? How does that math work in your head? Because I really think like that's the key to unlocking everything that you just said. It's that mindset.
Well, so we talk to our foreman all the time. So you have two jobs. You got to build the landscape here, but you're also training. And training is a really, really big part of your job. That kid that we just hired last week that's on your crew who barely knows how to sweep, that kid 3 years from now could be a foreman, or 4 or 5 years from now could be a foreman in the company. But you need to do, as a foreman, you need to invest in this kid. You have to you have to first sell him on the industry. Like this is an industry you want to be, so you got to make it fun. You can't treat him like a slave. Nobody wants to, so it's your first summer job ever. You want to come out of there like I did in my first summer job. I loved it. I loved the people I was with. I loved the work we were doing. So if every foreman in your company looked at every new employee like a potential foreman, and their job was to light the spark, light the fire that would ignite, and this kid wants to be the next landscape foreman, project manager, operations manager, whatever. That's where it starts. So every foreman is an ambassador of the company. And, I often use the analogy in our company that you have to treat the landscape company like a sports team. I don't know who your hockey team is, the Canadians?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So a strong, a healthy hockey team has a very strong, healthy farm system, right? And you care as much about the current squad as you do about the minor league teams. And so you invest in scouting and all that. It's no different in running any business, I suppose, but landscaping for sure. So, you got the summer kid. Okay, well, what's the summer kid doing after high school? Is there any interest there? Why not? Maybe did he enjoy the job? Like, was he treated well? Because kids are very impressionable at 15, 16 years old. And if they really like it, they haven't decided yet what they're going to do for a career. And so you need to be intentional about how you treat these kids. And if they're treated like a spare shovel, they're probably not going to make this a career choice, but if they're brought on and they're kind of showed the ropes and, hey, here's an idea. If you're not feeling useful, here's a list of things that you could do. I'm not always going to be available to tell you what to do next, but just be, and then at the beginning of the day, explain to your whole crew, actually, here's the goals for today. This is what we're going to try to get accomplished. It's that old adage of the three Masons, right? And you've heard it, I'm sure. You ask the first guy, "What are you building?" "I'm building a wall," right?
Yeah.
Or no, the first guy says, "I'm laying block." The second guy says, "I'm building a wall." Third guy says, "I'm building a cathedral." Like, that's just they're all doing the same thing, but it's a difference of their vantage point. And it's your foremen have to be the guy painting the picture. So we're building this landscape today, but we're actually building a career, we're building a reputation, we're building a brand, we're doing all these things all at the same time. So that's not how you get people, that's how you keep people.
That's beautifully said. But
it's a start, like, anyway.
In order to have that happening, So like to come back to the sports analogy, because I like to think that way too. So I'm indulge me a little bit. But if I have the farm team coming up and I'm calling up prospects to the big club, usually that happens because I've had an injury or someone's retired or I didn't renew a contract or there was a trade or something. So it implies that there's churn. But if you've built a company that is growing, like a hockey team is a 23-man roster and that's it. That's the roster. You can't have more players. But a business does not have that limitation. As the business grows, if you manage to continue doing excellent marketing, to continue to drive up demand for your services, that you have more prospective clients than you can do business with, well, then you can have a new crew that gets added. You can add a new salesperson. You can add a new design person. And I think that is the big key is it's not just the one thing that you said about retaining people, and it's not just the marketing thing that we were talking about before. It's having the long-term vision for the whole company and understanding what are all the things that need to be happening. I need to be marketing to get more demand, to get more customers. I need to be developing, I need to be attracting the right people, retaining them and developing them so that they can grow within the company and continue to take the next step, because this company will take a next step. And that's the vision that I think a lot of people, myself included, will sometimes forget because you get caught in the day-to-day and you're just running and you're putting out fires and you're just trying to keep things going. But you need to have that step back. And like you said, the winter time is a great time in our industry to really take that pause and be like, okay, where are we? And where are we going? And are we still on the path that I thought I was setting us on before? And I think that's one of the things that I really admire about your company is you really see the intent behind everything that you do. And that's why I'm constantly impressed with what you guys are putting out, not just in terms of work, but just like everything you put out into the industry. You make the industry look so professional and so desirable to pursue a career in, because there's just so much opportunity. I think that's the most beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, I think we've been criticized before for growing. We've had, people look at us and say, what are you doing? Keep growing, trying to be the biggest. As far as we're concerned, if we're not growing the company, we're hurting the opportunities for our people. And so the only way to give opportunities to your people and really give them a career choice is to continue to grow. Because there's as the company, you made a good point, like the analogy with a sports team falls flat. Like the analogy works in some areas, right? Like people get you got to get the young kids in and you got to train them, and then they get better and better, and then they move up. But we're not trading people off too quickly, but we are continuing to grow. And we've said all the time, when we stop growing, we're going to start shrinking, and we're going to start to lose people. They're going to see that there's nowhere for us to go here, and we're going to lose the most ambitious people in our company. And when that starts happening, our company's going to start to maybe it doesn't happen quickly, but it'll start to slowly deteriorate. And so we have to grow. We have no choice but to continue to grow.
I don't know. I feel so inspired right now. I want to get back to work and keep growing my company now. Is there is there anything that you want to add to this conversation that maybe we didn't touch on today?
I don't know. I think we've been going at it a pretty good clip here.
All right. Well, that means we did a good
Nothing
job.
Comes to mind.
Adrian, if anybody listening to the show wants to learn more about your company, obviously there's cedarsprings.net, but if they wanted to speak to you directly or speak to someone on your team, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, I think through our website would be the best. If somebody wants to speak to me directly, I think if you called into our office, or sent an email into our office, then it would get to me, and
Awesome.
I'd be happy to
Well, Adrian,
chat
I want to
further.
thank you very much for joining us on the show today. This has been a lot of fun. Like I said, I feel like I really want to get back to work now because I do this. I do these calls kind of for fun and kind of to give back to the industry that's given so much to me. But I really appreciate the time that you've given us today. And until next time, everybody, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you next week on the Hardscape Growth Show. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Alex.
I'm gonna hit stop on. Actually, yeah, I'll hit stop on the record. Actually, I have one question before I hit stop on the record. This is just for my future reference. But in terms of, and that was fantastic, by the way. Like, I really mean it when I'm saying like I just want to get back to work now because like we have to keep growing. We have to keep growing. Like, I have so many great people on my team, and I need to keep giving them
Yeah.
opportunities. We have to keep growing. You're absolutely right. In terms of the relationship that Cedar Springs has with Tackle Block, my question to you is, what could we do, or what should we do to better serve a business like yours that has so many good things going for it?
Um, I don't think there's anything. I don't have any complaints about Techo Block. Um, Maybe our project managers
Mm-hmm.
would be better people to call and ask that question to. As far as I'm concerned, Techo Block and Permacon are sort of our go-to pavestone companies. I think we probably buy more Permacon right now just because of a
Mm-hmm.
relationship that I have with Ontario Stone Supply. He's a good friend of mine. That's literally the only reason we buy Permacon. Like, it's not like I like Permacon. I don't have any issues with it really, but um, we I tell our designers to go with whatever the best product is. And, all things being equal, if it's kind of Coke or Pepsi, then they would go with Permacon. But yeah, that's the honest truth. I
That's
don't.
fine. That's all I'm looking for. Is just an honest answer. In terms of education for your
Yeah,
employees,
yeah.
um, how do you go about training people on hardscape construction? Yeah.
So we do
Yeah.
training courses in the winter or on rain days. So we have actually. I didn't talk about this because I don't want to talk about it yet. But we have
Mm-hmm.
one of the. I'll tell you. I don't want to make it too public until it gets off the ground, but we have in mind to create a training facility, and this facility will be a big warehouse where we will do landscape training. It'll start with the idea to
Mm-hmm.
start with is to train our guys internally. Eventually, though,
You could train others.
we have in mind to open this up
Yeah.
and perhaps even get accreditation for it. So market it to either high schools or colleges or both, and it'll be a world class facility where we can take video of it. We could post the and really. The idea is that if you
QR
are
code.
Cedar Springs trained, you are like elite trained, and it's marketable
Yeah.
anywhere. It's kind of like somebody with a McDonald's resume, right? Like, people say that if you worked at McDonald's, you have it. Like, it's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good thing to have at
Is
the
there?
top of your resume. So anyway, that's one of the ideas
I
that
was asking
we're
just because
working on.
we built this website called hardscaper.com where we built video courses that might be useful for new people, because it's
Okay.
basically what we did was we took the ICPI and the NCMA courses, and I was, well, yeah, I guess I'm not, because
Yep.
I didn't renew my paperwork now after a few years, but I've taught both those courses like 50 times each, and I turned those into like 2.5 hour video courses, so they're all like little lessons, like
Oh,
5 to 10 minutes each with a quiz at the
yep.
end, and I got them accredited with the ISBI and the NCMA for continuing education credits and things like that. So if you weren't aware, I just wanted to, and I can shoot you the link by email, but it's something that, you know, might be useful because it's like a formalized thing, you know?
Yeah, but so I guess my concern is would it be like that might
Because
not
of the
hit our
ultra base.
standards.
Yeah.
You know, like we do it with ultra base, and yeah, like so we would want to teach our people how
It might
we
be a
would
good
build
structure,
it here,
though. I mean, you
know,
could have one of your project managers or foremen check it out and see if it makes any sense. Because if it's free,
look at it.
it's
Yeah.
hardscaper.com.
And sorry, where is that at?
So we put together a whole bunch of courses.
Okay.
For interlocking concrete pavement, for segmental retaining wall construction,
Cool.
which is something a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about too, and a few other things.
Yep.
Whenever you're ready to take the next step with that training facility, if you ever see an opportunity, I'm sure we'd love to be able to help with that in some capacity. So just, you know, you let me know and we'll figure out how to help you.
All right.
Because that sounds like a great idea, and that's good for all of us. So
Sure. Yeah.